Another problem with observational research is that the observer can become tired and change their rating over time, and those type of things. And to me, the biggest weakness of this study, or this type of method, is just time. It just takes a lot of time to do it. It takes a lot of upfront work too, with making sure your definitions are correct. So again, the study is a really good example of an observational research method. It's kind of interesting too. At least it's local for us Fresno people. Okay, we're going to move on from observational research, and we're going to talk about unobtrusive. Did I spell that wrong? Okay, unobtrusive research methods. And this is collecting data when people don't know that the data is being collected. This can be done, looking at the nature of the cities through different documents, who's watching television, stuff, records the people of events, and I'll talk about privacy concerns. The book has some pretty good examples of the types of unobtrusive research methods. On page 297, the researchers have assessed the degree of fear caused by telling ghost stories to children by observing the shrinking diameter of the circle of seated children. Thought that was kind of interesting. Researchers have measured boredom by the amount of fidgeting movements in audience. The rate of library withdrawals of fiction and nonfiction books has been studied to determine the impact of television in communities. This one's kind of interesting. Researchers have noticed that children demonstrate their interest in Christmas by the size of their drawings of Santa Claus and the amount of distortion in the figures. So again, this method is where the people don't know that they're being researched. They take information from reports from the city and those type of things. I thought another interesting study was using city records was analyzed of city water pressure as an index of television viewing interest. Immediately after a television show, the water pressure dropped as drinks were obtained and toilets flushed. I thought that was kind of interesting. Mabley in 1963 presented data on Chicago's water pressure on the day of an exciting Rose Bowl game that showed a drastic drop in pressure at the time of the game's end because everybody's going to the bathroom and flushing a toilet. And so I thought it was kind of interesting. Again, the whole point of this, that people don't know that they're being observed. There was an old, I can't remember the name of the television show, where people were being recorded on TV, and people are acting strange, and they were recording how people would act, people acting in a strange method, and then they would show, and at the end of the episode, they would tell them, hey, you're on TV or whatever like that. This is strange stuff, and maybe some of you seen that TV show. The biggest concern with unobtrusive research is privacy concerns. You can violate people's privacy. So I don't really expect anybody in this graduate program to actually do unobtrusive research, but I thought you should know about unobtrusive research. And maybe you'll be on TV one of these days. The last method we're going to talk about is correlational research. We have talked about correlational research, the statistical methods, when we talked about correlational statistics. Again, what we're talking about is exploring relationships between variables. Does variable X have a relationship to Y? Does smoking have a relationship to cancer? Yes. There's not a cause and effect there, but there is a relationship between them. And then when we're talking about strictly descriptive research, we're trying to determine if the variables are related to each other or or can we make a prediction based on the event or the outcome of the variables? We're just describing that relationship. We're not trying to set up a experimental design with this one. Okay, all we're trying to do is describe the relationship between variable x and variable y, or the prediction. Like percent body fat is a prediction variable. It's based on a mathematical equation that we can make a prediction on somebody's percent body fat based on skinfold caliper measurements. And descriptive research, or excuse me, correlational research is based on the characteristics of the nature of the participants, the spread of scores, and the shrinkage and prediction. Now, the nature of the participants, what we're talking about there is some of the participants just might be more like one another because who they are. Some kids are more like one another, and other kids are like kids, but they're not like adults. If we did the exact same test with adults versus kids, there probably wouldn't be a relationship there. And a good example of this is back in when we were going over correlational research, I gave you a research study about juggling, a transfer of motor learning. One of the parts of the results is the non-dominant group had a very high relationship. They had a pretty high correlational Pearson's R score. Well, if you look at the numbers were close because they didn't change at all because they never learned anything. There wasn't really a relationship between them. They just didn't learn. The numbers made it look like they were close. That's the spread of scores. That's what I'm talking about here. Is just the scores can really lie. You have to really do some interpretation. Is there really a relationship going on there? Did really anything happen in that particular study? If you go back and look at it, the mean values never really changed that much with the control group, and that's what you expect. You expect a control group not to have any change, but the experimental group had some kind of change. So if we describe that, we would describe that the experimental group showed a change in behavior over time. In the shrinkage in prediction, typically prediction equations are only reliable for subjects used in a study and not for the whole population. It could be, we just have to think about how many subjects a particular study had. If we had low numbers of subjects, probably not going to be a very good study there. The whole point of correlational research in this setting is to describe the relationship between variables and help us to make prediction. Again, correlational research does not establish a cause and effect. Smoking does not cause cancer. There is a relationship between smoking and cancer. If you smoke, you have a higher likelihood that you get cancer, but it's not a direct cause. It's not a cause of cancer. There's other variables that come into play with that. So in a summary, descriptive research means describing the subjects, not determining cause and effect. All we're doing is using descriptive statistics in our design and our words to describe what's going on with those particular subjects and trying to make some understanding of what's going on with that particular group of subjects at that time. There are several different methods that we use in descriptive research. Developmental, we're trying to see how people develop over time. We have case studies. We can look at a small group, 1 or 2 people, or an organization, which would be a job analysis, to understand how that case, what it looks like, and then try to help others understand how to use that case in their organization or with other situations. There's observational research, where the researcher or researchers go and observe the subjects, look for particular behaviors over time to see how they're displayed. There's unobtrusive descriptive research, where the subjects don't realize that they are being researched, and we make some decisions or conclusions based on other things other than just behaviors of the subjects, hence the toilet flushing after games. We can know that water pressure goes down because a lot of people are going to the bathroom at the end of a TV show. Then correlational research designs. These designs are to help us understand the relationship between variables, to describe what that relationship is like, and to help us make predictions in the future. So again, descriptive research used to describe what's going on.